better than I am, so NATO's strong and tough, and appreciate that. So we'll be voting here in a minute. Mr. Chairman, one of the nominees, Judge Sarah Netburn, was involved in transferring a prisoner to a female prison who was a biological male, formerly known as William McLean, a 6'2" biological male, rapist, child molester, who identified as a woman, to a female prison. The Bureau of Prisons objected to this transfer. This was a big focus on our side about the wisdom of that decision. And what we found, the inmate was incarcerated in '94 for molesting a 9-year-old boy, raping a 17-year-old girl. He was released in 2015, but was again convicted in 2017 of distributing child pornography and sentenced to 15 years in federal prison. In between stints in prison at the age of 51, the inmate began identifying as a woman. This was a big deal on our side. We thought this was a very bad decision, and Judge Netburn said at birth, people are typically assigned a gender, a theoretical risk of sexual assault by the petitioner without more cannot support the BOP's, Bureau of Prisons, position. Well, now what do we have? We've got a report that the person in question has been accused of exposing themselves, male genitalia at the female prison. We have been trying to get the Bureau of Prisons to confirm this media report since July the 2nd. They will not confirm or deny. They won't give us the information because of the privacy rights of the prisoner. I'm asking you to hold this over. I know this was Senator Schumer's pick, till we can find out exactly what happened. There's a lawyer for a female inmate who witnessed this, who says this is true. So I would ask, Mr. Chairman, that we would hold this vote over until we can find out what happened, because the facts alleged here are beyond disturbing. So that would be my request.
Thank you, Senator Graham. In the case involving JJS versus Plyler, Judge Netburn considered an incarcerated person's petition for a writ of habeas corpus. The petitioner, a transgender woman, had been convicted of multiple serious sex offenses, including child molestation, rape, and distribution of child pornography. Judge Netburn concluded that the Bureau of Prisons had violated the petitioner's Eighth Amendment rights by refusing to transfer her to a woman's facility. Accordingly, Judge Netburn recommended granting the petition in part and ordering the petitioner's immediate transfer to a women's facility. Her report and recommendation was subsequently adopted in full by the district court. As Judge Netburn herself has noted, the crimes the petitioner committed were horrific. But as she testified at her hearing and further explained in her written responses to questions for record, each of the 3 wardens who supervised the petitioner supported the transfer request. The district judge adopted Judge Netburn's report and recommendation in full, concluding it was, quote, thorough, detailed, and well-reasoned. The district judge then ordered the Bureau of Prisons to transfer the petitioner to a female facility. Notably, the Bureau of Prisons did not move for a stay or otherwise challenge the district court's order. From what I can see, Judge Netburn did the right thing in applying the facts and the law to the case before her to the best of her ability, and the district judge agreed with her analysis. That is why we should want and expect from any nominee who comes before this committee or serves on the federal bench. Are there any comments? Any other comments?
If I may, Mr. Chairman,
of course.
Others would like to speak. Thank you very much. I think this is relevant information as to how we should vote. We objected to the whole idea of sending a 6'2" biological male to a female prison for this very reason. And the Bureau of Prisons objected. She found that it was a theoretical problem. It was no longer theoretical, potentially. I can't believe we're voting on somebody when there's evidence that the person that we were concerned about did the very things that we're all concerned about. And I can't get the Bureau of Prisons to tell me. They say the privacy rights of the prisoner, come on. You don't have a privacy right to expose yourself. This is ridiculous. I object vehemently. This will be taken to the floor. This is irresponsible, in my view, not to get this information before we vote.
It is fair to ask whether Judge Netburn made a reasonable decision in this case at the time she made the decision. The decision by the district court to support her decision is indication that it was fair and reasonable. What happened afterwards is hard to predict in any case. Just this week, a district court judge in Alaska, who members of this committee voted for, resigned because of sexual misconduct. To hold members of the committee responsible now for wrongdoing by this judge after we made our decision as a committee is unfair. The same thing applies to Judge Netburn.
Well, I'm glad he resigned.
I am
You're
too.
about to promote this person before we get the facts. It's not a good example.
Any others wish to speak? Judge Lee? Senator Lee. Sometimes Judge.
Yeah, I'd have brought my robe. Look, this isn't just another episode in the ongoing culture kampf over whether or not someone who identifies as female can be treated for one purpose or another as female. This is a question of public safety. And we do have to remember that what happened here was that Judge Netburn reached a conclusion under the Constitution, concluded that under the 8th Amendment, it was unconstitutional of the Bureau of Prisons to not send this prisoner to a prison specifically for women. So that's a pretty big move to overturn the decided judgment of experts in the field who at any given moment are incarcerating in the federal system, I think a couple 100,000 inmates, and to say it would be unconstitutional to not send this person, a biological male, 6 feet, 2 inches tall, who had lived as a man for, as I understand it, 52, 53 years before identifying as a woman. So that's a pretty significant decision in and of itself. Then you get to the question of public safety. Look, no matter how much this prisoner might think of that prisoner, when that prisoner looks in the mirror as a female, that person has long ago gone through puberty and acquired the secondary sex characteristics typical of males. Males have different centers of gravity. They have different amounts of bone density, of muscle mass. And this provides some competitive advantages in certain circumstances. And when you're putting people in prison, let's think about this from the standpoint of the other prisoners. If you want to start talking about cruel and unusual punishment under the 8th Amendment, let's worry about what we're doing to the women in that facility, who I'm just guessing, I'm going to go out on a limb here. I'm just guessing if you took a poll of the women in that prison, I'm guessing there would be overwhelming, if not unanimous, support for the fact that they don't want to be incarcerated with a man. And in fact, I think it's cruel and unusual punishment to subject them to that. Now, just look at this report that came out. You could describe this as after acquired evidence, as new evidence, evidence that she didn't have at the time. And yet, I think the thing speaks for itself. I'm not really excited about reading the words of what actually happened. These are words that we don't use very often in Provo. But this inmate did things that women don't do. Openly flaunting, displaying, exhibiting his genitalia in front of female inmates. That is a sexual assault in any jurisdiction. And so for us to look at this casually at what Judge Netburn did and to just be asked to overlook that is something that's really, really tough to do. This is very tough to defend. Now, in her hearing, Judge Netburn made the following statement, saying, quote, "The last thing I'll say about that is that the Transgender Executive Council, which is the body which makes decisions on behalf of transgender transfer requests within the Bureau of Prisons, never said that the petitioner could not be transferred and never, ever said that she couldn't be transferred because of any risk of violence. What the Transgender Executive Council repeatedly said in denying the request was simply that she needed to maintain her hormone levels. So by making this about hormone levels and about how the prisoner self-identifies, the judge is overlooking obvious disparities in size, strength, center of gravity, bone density, muscle mass, and all sorts of other things, and overlooking more than 5 decades of this guy being a male, doing things that males do, or some of them anyway. And it's not just supremely naive to assume that everything's going to be hunky-dory when you send that guy to a female prison. It's dangerous. And it shows a lack of judgment that makes her ill-suited for a lifetime Article III appointment. Thank you.
The first judge up is Embry Kidd, nominated to the U.S. Court of Appeals for the 11th Circuit. Anyone seek recognition to speak on this nomination? If not, the clerk will call the roll.